Hello, this is Stephen and Jennifer with Iowa Backyard Farmer coming to you with part two of our seed starting mix trials.
Yeah, so 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks ago, we took 14 different seed starting mixes and planted them to see how they would do. And the results are in.
Yeah, and it's been really fun to watch these. It's pretty easy to want to sneak down every morning and look and say, okay, which one's doing what?
Well, I water, so I do look every
You've got a better
day.
idea, but I keep coming down. I'm like, so which one is it going to be? How are they doing? And I'd say there's been some surprises.
And there were some not surprises too. So if you watched our first video where we talked about the qualities of each one, and you have your bed in, you can put your bed in and see if your favorite wins or doesn't, and see if you're surprised or not.
Yeah, but if you haven't watched the first one, please go back and do watch part one because we talk a lot about each of these, what their components are. So for this one, we're just going to focus on the results, and we'll give you a little sneak, I guess, preview, post view. I don't know
Post
what
view.
the right word
We
is.
we we did this twice, so I have some tomatoes that and two trays that we did like 4 weeks ago, and we're gonna see how well they held up. I don't have a representative of all of them, but it's interesting too.
Yeah. So the main focus for today are ones that we planted 19 days ago, and so they've had a chance to come up. And so we did, like you said, 14 different ones. We did some blends at the end. We'll just touch base on the blends just a little bit. What we learned is that there's no hybrid vigor
Yeah,
associated.
I was like, well, if one is good and this is also good, then we'll combine them and get super mix. Spoiler
No.
alert, none of that worked.
Yeah.
None of that worked.
Either they got the average of the two or the lower of the
Or the
two.
lower of the two.
There was no bump up from mixing any of these. And that said, I'll just do my statistical analysis qualifier. This is one location across multiple different varieties. All try to control the environment, but you may have different experience with where you're at. But this certainly is driving what we're going to use for the next 10,000 or so seedlings that we're going to start.
Yeah. So, what were our criteria? Because we're trying to be scientific here. We're like, you can see here, they're like, they're green. They're all grew up. That's not helpful.
Yeah.
That's not helpful. So we took a panel of judges, and we, how do you describe that process?
So I would say across. So maybe I'll describe what we did real quick. So for each seed mix, we planted 12 cells, and 12 cells is 6 different varieties twice. And so we've got 2 rows of each, and we have got 3 different types of peppers, 1 type of tomato, 1 type of it was a Mexican mint marigold,
Yep.
something like that, and then chives.
So we wanted some little seeds, some big seeds, some quick germinating things, some little slower germinating things, and they each had 2 shots at it.
Yeah.
So if it didn't come up, then we didn't count it against it. If they both came up, you kind of averaged the 2.
Yeah.
And you gave everybody 1 free blank because seeds do not always do what they're supposed to do, even in perfect conditions.
Yeah. So I'd say 1 free blank, but if there was we want to look across, for example, all the emerald giant peppers all together. If there seemed to be just 1 out of all, what do we have? A whole bunch.
36.
36. If there's 1 out of 36 that came up, I'll say maybe that's just a seed issue. If we look across, for example, 1 seed starting mix and a bunch of them didn't come up, then
that's
like,
a problem.
Okay, that's an issue. And so we scored that as well. But in general, I will say we used what I call a 1 to 5 scoring method. And so there was, 4 of us that went through and scored, and we averaged everything together at the end. But on my 1 to 5 scoring method, I'll say a 5 is the best of the best. So out of the 14, typically there's 1 or 2 that were 5s, just rock stars.
Yeah, you look across it and you're like, if I was picking this one, that's the one I want. That's the number 5.
Yeah. So 5 is the best of the best. 1 is the worst of the worst. 3 is average. 4 is above average. 2 is below average. And so we scored everything on here based on that criteria. How well did it look? Is it something that we would want to use, not want to use? Was the color good? Was the height good? Was the width? Tried to look at We didn't pull out measuring tapes, but how big are
But you can
the
tell.
cotyledons? How
Yeah.
big are what's the height? For the chives where he planted multiple seeds, how many of them came up?
How tall are they?
How tall are they? Are they did they come up and they're like curling over?
Yeah, some of them came up and died.
Yeah,
That's not helpful.
did the mix end up with a green mold fungal stuff on it?
Yep. We also added things like how much did it cost and how hard was it to use. So there's a lot of factors that went into this. So let's get to the results.
Yep. So let's get to the results. So we're going to pull ahead just to look through this one.
Tray number one.
So tray number one, the very first one that we started with was Miracle Gro Seed Starting Mix.
And probably everybody has tried this one. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who are like, oh, Miracle Gro. It worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
It worked. In general, we had 100%. No, wait, we've got one blank. So I'll call that a seed issue, not a Miracle Gro issue.
And they were furthest ahead, dark green.
They were the first to germinate. They're first to emerge.
They were in that first wave. They weren't totally first, but they were early enough.
They were the first day that I saw them.
Yeah.
They were up. They are generally speaking very healthy looking. They have their cotyledons, the first true leaves. They're on their third or the second set of true leaves already.
Yeah, and at 19 days, I could transplant these.
So they're ready to transplant. So they're fairly impressed. I know a lot of people, like you said,
like to hate on
Miracle Gro, but I was pleasantly surprised. The chives are nice and tall as well. Next one over was Espoma.
And when we had done our trial before this, and I was like, wait, the results are weird. I was like, we have to retry this. So this is try 2 for Espoma, and it is doing fine, but it's not as ahead.
Yeah, if I was to take a general look, I'd say the peppers are about, I don't know, they're
a couple days behind.
Yeah, they're a couple days behind.
They're only just now starting to work on that second set of true leaves, still on the first set of true leaves. And they're about half as tall as the Miracle Gro ones.
Half as tall, and we go back to the chives, and some of the chives are not even a third or a fourth as tall as the Miracle Gro.
Not nearly as thick.
And so just not nearly as thick. So that one, despite how much we really liked it last time,
it's going to be kind of average.
Is a little bit more average. Next one up, Fox Farm Light Warrior. This is one where we look across, and we've got one pepper didn't emerge at all. One pepper emerged without a growing point.
Yep, and one tomato
without a growing point. And one of the Mexican mints is pretty tiny, but the chives are more average. So
this gets met, and it gets dinged because it was super stupid expensive.
Yeah, it was crazy expensive, and so. I don't know. The color is okay, but overall not all that exciting.
So are you ranking these in your brain? We'll go through them at the end.
We'll go through and show the results
so far
at the
we're
end.
going downhill.
And so next one up is ProMix, which we used a lot last year, and we've been generally pleased with.
Yeah, it works really good.
But it was really interesting to put it side by side. The emergence was a little bit delayed compared to some of the others. Overall, the plants are quite a bit shorter.
But they are dark green, they are healthy, and we got 100% germination.
Yeah. So in the absence of a side-by-side comparison, I would be very happy with it.
Yeah.
But next to some of the others, I'm like,
It wasn't first, it's not biggest.
Yeah. So kind of middle of the road, I would say, so far. Next one up, Jiffy from Walmart.
And I wanted to hate this one, just so you all know. I was like, oh, this feels cheap. It's doing okay.
It's doing okay. The plants are just a little bit bigger than I would say the ProMix.
Well, and the Jiffy Walmart, again, we got 100% germination. It's a little taller on the peppers even than the ProMix. The tomatoes are not quite as consistent, but that could be a seed issue too.
Yeah.
And the Jiffy Home Depot is just about the same with just slightly bigger tomatoes.
Yeah. So similar, just overall the Home Depot one I'd say is a little bit taller across all the different varieties.
Yep.
So next one up, Hoffman's, and Hoffman's I'd never heard of until we went to Earl May and found it and spent a whole lot of money because it was kind of expensive.
Also gets dinged on the price, but it grew. It's almost as tall as the Miracle Gro. So we've got lovely green tomatoes. We've got really thick and lush chives. They're so tall they're getting a little floppy. The marigold is really good. It did get dinged a little bit because it started growing some algae for me, and the peat mixes are particularly prone to this. I didn't have any trouble with the other ones over there, but we'll see that this is it's starting to have an issue here.
Yeah. So next one up was Ferry Morse, and this is the, oh wow.
I know. We got this at Menards and had like a nostalgic flashback of maybe this was the cheap, terrible one that we bought before, and it is.
It's awful.
It's awful. If you look at this, it looks like it's trying to grow pond scum. It's got so much algae on it. I can remediate this with a little hydrogen peroxide diluted in water and spray that on. You can also scrape it off, but I left it here so you could see it. It really, really stunts the growth of your seedling. It's not getting the right nutrients. It's blocking nutrients and oxygen, and they look super sad that like failed.
Yeah. So if we were planting up this entire tray today, we would skip over the Ferry Morse as a whole because there's none of those would meet our criteria for transplanting.
Yeah, it got solid ones. Did it? It
yeah.
Got solid ones.
On the 1 to 5 score, it was worse for everything. Next one up is Burpee. Now, Burpee we've used in the past, and in the absence of comparisons,
so
okay.
Because we were trying to compare across, so all these previous ones have all been peat based, peat and perlite, peat and coir, peat and vermiculite. Burpee is just coir, and I'm like, well, that's really nice if you're trying to avoid peat.
Yep.
And
generally speaking, the plants look okay, but compared to everything else, man, they're kind of short. I'd call them shorter but healthy looking.
Yeah, they're short and they're healthy looking. They're a little further behind than the ProMix or the Jiffy mixes, but they're not bad. Like you said, in an absence of comparison, you'd probably look at that and be like, I did pretty good.
It's all right, yeah.
I did pretty good.
The chives are shorter to average, but we did lose we had one Mexican marigold that popped up and then died, so that one.
So it's not perfect.
It's not perfect. Next one up, Master Garden.
Which is funny to me because the ingredients are identical.
Yeah.
And I thought we would get identical results, but twice now we've done this, and Master Garden outperforms it just a little bit. The chives are taller, the tomatoes are taller, the peppers are further ahead. It's something about this just works a little bit better.
Yep. So overall, relatively pleased with that one. Next one up is not a seed starting mix, but a potting mix, the Fox Farm Happy Frog. And I know a lot of others who just absolutely love that one for potting up.
Yeah, so
how does it do for seed starting?
It's a little slow. It's a little slow, and I'm going to say that that's probably because it's a little chunkier. It's a little thicker, and the seeds work a little harder to get through that. It is lovely dark green. It is healthy, but it is a little bit delayed.
So, and part of that delay is also shown by just the irregularities. Some of the peppers are a little taller than others. One tomato is a little bit bigger than the other.
Yeah, it's not emerging evenly.
Yeah, and we just see that all the way across. It's just not very even, which makes sense because again, it is a potting mix, not a seed starting mix, and so it's, like I said, a little bit chunkier.
So, an Ocean Forest, which is the same thing. It's a potting mix, Fox Farms thing, and it's the same story. I've got a little irregularity. It's healthy, it's green, but it was a little slower to emerge, and it's not coming up all at the same time.
Yeah, in general, I'd say it's a little ahead of the Happy Frog, but generally, yeah, fairly average.
It came in and kind of in the middle of our pack.
Yeah.
All right.
Next up, back to the roots, and so this is one that had an entirely different.
Yeah, so again, if peat moss isn't your thing because you're like, this is not a sustainable resource, and coir isn't your thing because we're like, we have to ship this now, and that's going to take all the carbon in the world. Back to the roots is one of those ones that could solve your problem, and this is the processed or aged forest product. It didn't have any peat. How did it do?
Overall, it was delayed, and the plants are small. I was really, really hoping for good things to come out of this one.
Yeah.
But overall, if we were to rank them, and we'll do that here towards the end, it was towards the bottom.
You can see it has only one. It only has really the cotyledon leaves. It's just now getting to true leaves where the Burpee and the Miracle Gro and the Hoffmans are working on their second set of true leaves. So we're quite a bit
so
behind.
If speed is an issue for you, this one just doesn't do it. And even the leaves here are looking a little purple.
Yeah, so we've got
hungry.
a little.
But the
chives are happy.
Chives look. We had really good emergence. They're not very tall, but they look happy. But they all merged, and so generally the chives seem to like this one.
So yeah. So and then for our weird, or no, we shouldn't say that. That doesn't sound right.
For something that's entirely unique, very different than everything else we tried,
is the milled sphagnum moss, the SucSeed that was wildly, exorbitantly expensive, sold by the square inch.
Cubic inch, but yeah.
Cubic inch. Anyway, tiny little bag, and we used half of it for our trial. How did we do?
I don't think I'd buy this one again. It's generally, the peppers are a little bit further along than the last one, the back to the roots, but the color, they're not as dark green. They're way behind. They're just barely starting to put on their first true leaves for the peppers. We only have one tomato that's coming up, and the poor little thing, it just needs to be put in the emergency room.
It needs some love.
It's struggling. That said, the
chives are happy.
The chives are happy. The Mexican mint marigold is relatively happy. Not quite as dark as some of the others, but I don't know. For the cost,
you needed better performance. It's not something you could do at scale, and it's even expensive on a small scale.
Yeah. So after that,
we did 3-4 different little blends, and just to fly through those really fast, we picked Espoma because I liked the mycorrhiza, and Master Garden because I liked the coir for the better drainage, because Espoma has a hard time with water, and it didn't. I mean, it was okay. It's almost as good as these other sad ones. That's a little ahead of the sad ones.
Yeah, but in general, we didn't. That is significantly behind both of the components that we blended together. Yeah. So blending those two appears to not give us any benefits.
Yeah, and then I thought, well, that Light Warrior, Fox Farms Light Warrior, is really chunky. I'm going to put some of the coir mix in that and see if we can lighten that up a little bit and make it a little finer. It did a little better than the Light Warrior by itself, but it didn't do enough better to be better than a lot of the other ones by themselves.
Yeah. And so then we blended some of the little chunkier ones again, the Happy Frog with the Burpee. And this one, I don't know what it is about the combination, but most of the stuff didn't emerge.
Yeah, it didn't work. The Happy Frog did much better on its own.
Yep.
And then back to the roots again, because that was kind of a chunkier forest product thing. I thought we'd lighten that up again with the coir to keep it peat free. And it's okay. It did better than just the back to the roots by itself.
But it
is still far behind the other ones.
Yeah. So with that, let's.
Okay, so where did we end? Who's number one?
So if we go through all the results, and we'll stick up a table just for all of you data nerds like me.
Yeah, Stephen likes his little boxes.
Yeah.
Very official.
Very official. And so summed up across, or averaged across the 4 judges, we and just taking a look across everything here, and again, this is at 19 days, our number one in terms of overall growth, by far the highest score was the Miracle Gro.
It just works, guys.
And so the Miracle Gro was definitely first. Hoffman's came in second, and it was okay.
It is good. It is a lot more expensive. So if cost was your thing, it didn't outperform Miracle Gro, and it cost more.
Yeah. So.
And it wasn't organic either, so it didn't really solve any of your problems with peat or price or being organic or any of those things.
Yeah. Number 3 was the Master Garden, which we'd been impressed with last time.
And we actually have bought quite a bit of that to start seeds in, because I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah. So, pluses of that one is if you're avoiding peat, it is
peat free.
It's peat free.
It's made with the coir.
And if you want organic, that's the top rated organic one.
Yeah. So if you're like, I need an organic one, it needs to be peat free, Master Garden was the best one in that category. The caveat to that one for me, as we'll show you later at the end, is that you cannot leave your plant in that seed starting mix for an extended period of time. It does not have really good nutrient retention, and the plants that we kept longer started to suffer without extra help. So you really got to get your seeds up, going, and bump them up to something else. It's not a good long-term potting mix.
So in their defense, if you look at the back of the package,
it says
please add fertilizer within 2 weeks, or at about 2 weeks, add a fertilizer. And so if you're thinking you can just leave it in for a month without adding anything, we'll
go back to Miracle Gro.
show there's going to be a struggle. If you don't want to, you want to almost plant it and forget it type, where you don't have to add fertilizer, Miracle Gro I think is a really good option. If you're okay with everything else about it. But if you want to go with the organic route, the Master Garden seems to be the one.
We've run it twice, and I've been okay.
Just got to add some fertilizer.
You will have to feed it.
So those really stood out as a whole across all the different varieties. Then we got kind of a middle where there's just a whole bunch of them. The Jiffy Walmart came in kind of fifth, tied with the Fox Farm Ocean Forest. Neck and neck with that was the Jiffy from the Home Depot.
And they're very comparable. The Jiffy ones had almost the same blend, and the Ocean Forest, I was surprised at it beating the Happy Frog one. I would not have predicted that.
Yeah. So
but they're very close.
Also in that middle bunch, ProMix, which at 19 days was average. We'll take a look and see what we thought of that one after about a month.
Yeah, and there's some surprises if you keep going.
Espoma came in. All these were just neck and neck. The Happy Frog came in that same middle group. All pretty good in the absence of a comparison. I think most people would be plenty happy with those.
Happy with that.
So ones that came in on the bottom portion.
Where I'm like, save your money or think twice.
So the burpee, it was right on. It just fell below the line of
and we
average.
did this one twice too, and that was a surprise because we've used it before and been happy with it. But in comparison, it fell to our bottom third twice.
Twice. So burpees at the top of that bottom third. The Fox Farm Light Warrior was down there. Wasn't real excited about that. The SucSeed, super crazy expensive, didn't give us decent performance, was down there. The Back to the Roots one was kind of sad that one didn't perform better.
Yeah, I really liked the idea of that one, but by comparison and performance, it really didn't.
It really didn't. And then the very, very bottom of the page, averaging a 1 for everything, was the Ferry Morse.
Yeah,
and
I
hope we bought like 3 bags to begin with. We're going to return them.
Yeah,
so
I used up everything else. I've used up almost everything else. Planting all these seeds, we've got 2,000 peppers going, all sorts of stuff, and we're making it all work. But I would not buy that one again.
Yeah, I would not buy that one again.
And we looked on the bag to see on the Light Warrior one. I was like, can I return this? Because this was terrible. Yeah, and it says sold as is.
Yeah, most of them have. If you're not happy, within 6 months, send the bag back, your receipt back, and we'll refund you.
Yeah, some of them didn't.
Some of them, the worst of the ones didn't, unfortunately.
Oh, well.
It's like, maybe they know something. I don't know. So let's take a sneak peek at what we did from our very first.
From the first one.
Our very first one, we didn't plant near as many, but
so these have been sitting and without much attention.
So you've kept them watered, but you've done nothing to feed them.
This one's looking a little dry. And you can see they grow really fast.
So they grow really fast. So if we were to just look at the ones that we had compared, so if we go across here, we've got a ProMix, the same one that was fairly average at 19 days. If I look across this initial tray.
Let's just pick one.
And pull out the roots.
So this is ProMix at 4 weeks, and they should have been transplanted. So you're seeing them there be a little root bound, but that is healthy. It's still dark green.
Yeah.
And we've been growing. It's even, that one's fine. And let's pull out one of the Master Garden ones.
So at 4 weeks, I would have no issues whatsoever with that one. Moving on to the Master Garden. Let's see. So Master Garden.
Oh, see, we're starting it smaller. We're losing leaves. And this is starting to yellow. And it's not got nearly the root development on it.
On average, I would say they're about 1.5 inches shorter than the ones from ProMix.
Yep.
So really good at 19 days. At a month, they're starting to struggle. The burpee,
Oh, see, look at that. We're getting some nutrient deficiencies there. You can see it's purpling under the leaves. It's yellowing on top. It's starting to. I mean, it.
It could grow out of it.
We could pull this out.
We can nurse it out.
You could nurse this out, but this isn't ideal.
Yeah. So I would not want to keep the burpee for a month in its thing. So let's pull one out. I'm going to grab one out of the center here because why not? If I can, they're almost. Oh, I got two.
You got two. Oh, you got to take one of my peppers.
Yeah. Okay, here you go.
Okay, the happy roots. So this is Miracle Gro, and look at the stem on this. So pull back out the burpee one. And the stem is twice as big around. So we've got a thicker stem. We've got way more height. It's darker green, and I don't have the nutrition deficiencies that you would have. So this, without fertilizer, is really not holding it. Yeah. But Miracle Gro and ProMix holding it together.
Miracle Gro and ProMix did all right there.
And we had the same Master Garden and burpee there, so let's just pull an Espoma here.
Espoma, yep.
And again, this is starting to look really sad.
Yeah.
We're half the size, we're thinner, we're losing leaves here that are starting to fall off.
Yeah.
And
we could nurse that one back to health pretty easily.
Yep.
But in general, not happy in the absence of some kind of plant food.
Yep.
So.
And I mean, and a little more root space would be good. We've kept these in here pretty long.
Yeah.
The peppers are not struggling quite as much, so we can pull up from the Espoma. You've got, these are those Bolivian rainbow peppers, and that looks.
That's a very nice looking.
That's a very nice looking plug. So that's okay. The tomatoes are really heavy feeders. That's why they're a good test subject for this, because they'll show distress faster. For burpee and Master Garden, it's a little dry. It's also a nice plug. It's, see that quare doesn't.
It just falls apart.
It just falls apart. But you can work with that. And then, what about the Miracle Gro? Do we have a representative pepper?
Pull a pepper out from Miracle Gro. I'll just grab one here on the edge. Oh,
yeah. So see, here's the Espoma, and here's the Miracle Gro.
Mm-hmm.
So even by comparison, I was happy with this, but this is still it's still bigger.
It's yeah. Even with the plug all falling apart.
Yeah.
So then the last, I guess, did you get the Miracle? No. So let's pull out a Miracle Gro one here as well.
No, that's ProMix. This was Miracle Gro. That's
so ProMix. We can pull out a ProMix one. Just grab one from the end.
And that one's even better.
Yep.
So if you were planting in your seed things and you were like, I really don't want to bump it up, I really don't want to transplant it, something like a ProMix or the Miracle Gro is going to take you further without all the extra help. Master Garden and burpee, great start, but it doesn't hold it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to say about those?
So, the conclusion is it kind of depends on what you're aiming for. Yeah. So if you want an organic one, I would go for the Master Garden. Just plan on providing some good plant food to it.
And bumping it up.
And bumping it up fairly soon. If you want to kind of plant it and nearly forget it in terms of fertilizing, the Miracle Gro
it's hard to beat.
Is pretty hard to beat.
It's hard to beat.
And so, I was surprised and impressed by the Miracle Gro one, and surprised and depressed by how many of the others that I thought would perform really well just didn't.
Yeah, so we talked a lot about mycorrhiza and all these things, and I think they do help in their place, like the Fox Farm and the Ocean Forest, where they're not a seed starting mix. I think if we had trialed those in a pot over a season, you probably would have seen even different results, because not everything that's a first up is a winner at the end. So we might have to try that this summer and see if they can hold through a season.
Yeah, right? But for starting out, we can see there's certainly some differences. So I'm curious, what is your favorite seed starting mix?
What have you used or hated? What's worked or not for you?
And go ahead and put that down in the comments. In the meantime, please like and subscribe and follow us, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.